The cafe was almost empty when she walked in. The faint sound of clinking cups and soft jazz music filled the air as the scent of roasted coffee beans wrapped around her, like a warm blanket she didn't feel she deserved. Her fingers trembled as she clutched the strap of her old handbag, her faded blue dress brushing against her knees. To everyone else, she might have looked like just another quiet girl stepping in for a cup of tea. But to her, this moment felt heavier, like her heart was carrying every bruise life had given her. If you believe that kindness, second chances, and love still exist in this world, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that beauty isn't found in perfection, but in a heart that keeps believing. Her name was Alina. Life hadn't been kind to her. Her father had passed away when she was just 16, leaving her mother bedridden and the house filled with unpaid bills. She dropped out of college, trading her textbooks for double shifts at a small bakery just to keep the lights on. Every morning, she woke up before sunrise, her hands raw from scrubbing trays and frosting cakes, her mind quietly whispering dreams she never dared to chase anymore. But despite everything, Alina had one small joy, sitting by the cafe window after work, watching people. Couples laughing over coffee, friends sharing stories, strangers smiling at each other. She couldn't afford to order much, just a small cup of tea, but she loved being there. It made her feel a little closer to a life she had once imagined for herself. One rainy afternoon, as she was wiping raindrops off her sleeves and settling into her favorite corner seat, she noticed him. He was sitting by the window opposite hers, tall, neatly dressed, his presence calm yet commanding. His name, she would later learn, was Ryan. He looked like someone who belonged to a different world, a man who didn't worry about rent or hunger or loneliness. He sipped his coffee slowly, sometimes looking out the window, sometimes lost in thought. For reasons she couldn't explain, Alina found herself watching him more than she should have. Not out of admiration or envy, but out of a quiet curiosity. There was something gentle about the way he smiled at the waiter, something soft in the way his eyes lingered on the world, as though he was seeing beauty in things others ignored. For days, their paths crossed at the same cafe. He'd come in with his laptop, working quietly, while she'd sit by the window, trying to read her old, worn-out novel. Sometimes, their eyes would meet, and she'd quickly look away, pretending to fix her hair or check her phone. He'd smile to himself, sensing her shyness but never intruding. It was a strange rhythm, a silent connection between two people who'd never spoken but somehow felt each other's presence like music in the background of their days. But one evening changed everything. The cafe was almost closing when Ryan noticed her sitting alone again, staring at the rain streaking down the glass. The staff had begun cleaning up, chairs stacked, lights dimmed, yet she remained there, lost in thought. Something in her expression, a quiet sadness, made him pause. He closed his laptop and signaled for the waiter to bring another cup of coffee. But when the waiter approached, Ryan asked softly, "What's her story?" The waiter, a young man named Ethan, smiled sadly. "She comes here often, doesn't order much, just tea, always sits by the same window. She looks like she's waiting for someone, but no one ever comes." Ryan looked at her again, this time longer. There was something fragile, yet strong about her, a kind of beauty that had nothing to do with her clothes or hair, but everything to do with the quiet courage in her eyes. He wanted to speak to her, but he hesitated. How could he approach a stranger without seeming intrusive? So he decided to do something small, something kind. He asked the waiter to bring her favorite tea and say it was on the house. When Alina looked up and saw the cup placed before her, she blinked in surprise. "Who?" she began, but Ethan only nodded toward the man sitting across the cafe. Her heart skipped. For a moment she wanted to refuse. She didn't want pity. But when Ryan met her gaze and smiled, not with arrogance, but with warmth, she felt something shift inside her. She nodded slightly, her lips curving into a shy thank you. From that day, the silence between them began to change. Ryan would greet her with a nod, sometimes with a gentle hello. And slowly, words began to fill the space that had once been silence. She learned that he worked as a writer, that he loved observing people, and that he came to the cafe not for the coffee, but for inspiration. He, in turn, learned about her life, her struggles, and her dreams she had quietly buried. He never pitied her, he just listened. And that, more than anything, made her feel seen. Weeks passed. Their conversations grew longer, laughter more natural. For the first time in years, Alina found herself smiling for no reason. But deep down, fear clung to her heart. She knew she wasn't from his world. She couldn't afford fancy clothes or expensive perfumes. She often came to the cafe straight from work, smelling faintly of bread and flour. What if he saw her as a charity case? What if he grew bored of her simplicity? So she began to distance herself, arriving late, leaving early, avoiding his gaze. One evening, when the cafe was closing, Ryan noticed her sitting there again, but this time, her eyes looked tired, her smile forced. He wanted to ask what was wrong, but before he could, she stood up, mumbling something about being late. As she turned to leave, her old bag tore slightly at the strap, spilling a few coins and an old handkerchief onto the floor. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment as she quickly bent to gather them. But before she could, Ryan knelt beside her, helping her pick them. "Alina," he said softly, "you don't have to hide from me." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You have everything, and I have nothing. I can't even afford a new dress. You shouldn't waste your time with someone like me." Ryan smiled, his gaze steady. "You think love cares about what we wear or how much we earn? You think I see you for your clothes? Alina, when I look at you, I see someone who never gave up, even when life gave her every reason to. That's worth more than anything money could buy." That night, something inside her broke, and something else began to heal. From then on, they met more often. Ryan would wait for her after work, sometimes walking her home, sometimes just sitting beside her in silence as the city lights glowed through the cafe window. Their connection deepened, quiet but unshakable. People whispered about them, the elegant man and the simple girl, but neither cared. In their world, love was not measured by appearances but by presence. Months later, on a cold winter evening, the cafe saw a moment it would never forget. It was closing time again. The lights dimmed, chairs stacked, and the last customers had left. Alina was waiting, as always, her hands clasped nervously on the table. She thought Ryan was running late. But then the waiter, Ethan, walked over, smiling mysteriously. He untied his apron, folded it neatly, and sat down across from her. She blinked in confusion. "Ethan? What are you—" Before she could finish, the door opened, and Ryan walked in holding a small bouquet of white lilies. He smiled as he approached, his steps slow and deliberate. "Do you remember the first day I saw you sitting here?" he said. "You looked so lost, so unsure, but all I could think was how beautiful strength looks when it's quiet." He placed the flowers in front of her and sat beside her. "You thought I'd reject you for looking poor," he continued, his voice thick with emotion. "But the truth is, I fell in love with you. The very first moment I saw you walk through that door." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she covered her mouth, overwhelmed. He reached for her hand, holding it gently. "I don't care where you came from, Alina. I care where we can go, together." In that dimly lit cafe, surrounded by the soft hum of the city beyond the windows, two hearts that once belonged to different worlds finally found their home. Months later, the cafe where they first met became their favorite place. They still sat by the same window, still ordered the same tea and coffee. The waiter, now their close friend, often teased them about their story, calling it the cafe's miracle romance. And every time someone new walked in looking lost, Ryan would smile and say, "That's how she looked when I first saw her." Love didn't come to Alina wrapped in luxury or grand gestures. It came quietly, in kindness, in patience, in the eyes of a man who saw her not for her scars, but for her heart. And sometimes, that's all it takes. A moment of courage, a cup of tea, and a heart willing to see beyond appearances, to change a life forever. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who believes in love, that sees beyond status, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what it means to be human. Special request. Tell us in the comments below, Do you believe love can truly see beyond appearances? We'd love to hear your thoughts.